Support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Avenelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Avenelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Podcast. The Boro Podcast that gives you all of your Boro match day chatter in a podcast. And Boro are now unbeaten in 6 with 2 wins, 4 draws and 5th in the championship table. I'm joined by Dana and Tom to discuss it. And guys, as always, we'll do our one key takeouts. And Dana, would you like to go first?
Yeah, my key takeout this week is that our home form is sucking the life out of me. We're 9th for home form this season, but in terms of our points per game at the Riverside, 1.64 points per game, the lowest home PPG in the playoff picture and the second lowest home PPG in the top 10. I mean, in regards to points per game, you don't need to be amassing 2 PPG to get promoted. I think Luton in 2022-23 and Forest the season before that in 21-22 both proved that. But it does help, doesn't it? And it definitely helps the atmosphere at home games as well. And yesterday I noticed how quiet it was, how flat it was. I think the flat atmosphere was reflective of the flat Boro performance, but like it's got to the point now where I'm going to the Riverside expecting us to drop points. I'm not expecting us to lose necessarily, but I'm expecting us to drop points. And that's really unfortunate because I think to gain promotion in this league, especially automatic promotion, which I guess was the aim this season, that they were the noises coming out the club, your home form is your kind of bread and butter. And for a playoff team, as I mentioned, it's not absolutely necessary. It's not absolutely set in stone that teams that go via the playoffs have to have good home form, but yeah, it just helps. It helps prop up your promotion push. It also helps just the general feeling around a club. And I'm not the only Boro fan that goes to the games expecting us to drop points. It's kind of a running theme, unfortunately. So yeah, home form just sucking the life out of me, unfortunately.
And probably yesterday with no chips and curry over dinner.
No, don't. I got there too early. Yeah, I got there too early. When you said to me that there was actually curry sauce, I was like, really? I just knew then that it wasn't going to be a good day, but hey, not the Markham's fault. Completely mine.
You can't win them all. Tom, what's your one key takeout from the week?
You know what? It's actually very similar in that I'm really not enjoying going to the Riverside at the moment. And I couldn't quite put my finger on why until Dana's just kind of explained what our form actually is there and that other people are kind of feeling this way, because I got there fairly early yesterday. I was the first one of my group who turned up at the stadium. And I was just I was stood there drinking my pint. My stepmom and my stepbrother turned up and they were like, "You look like miserable today." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, just like..."
What thing to say?
I was just like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just not really like enthusiastic about coming at the moment." And I was like, if it seems daft for me to say, considering we've just come off like a 1-0 win against Hull, where everyone was kind of buzzing after that, just in the manner that we won it. But yeah, I don't remember seeing a good performance at the Riverside for quite some time, and it obviously carried on yesterday, and I think there's a reason why it's so flat around the ground at the moment, and it's down to the team to really pick that up.
Yeah, and it is the team at the moment is probably where it should be. I think my key takeout is we are where we should be, but we should be a lot more comfortable than what we are. There's a lot of points that even if you add it all up, you're still 4 or 5 points away from the top 2. And psychologically, I think the teams above us, knowing that we're going to drop points more consistently, but dropping points is just an advantage that they can say, well, I can go for this game more, because even if we do drop points, Middlesbrough aren't going to catch up to us. And we do have a good enough squad to be in the playoffs. We're in a good position. It just has to improve, and we have to be a bit more comfortable from where we are. At home, yesterday, and we'll come on to it, I thought we were really poor in moments. And it all comes back down to the trends of the season of better game management, better defensively and goalkeepers, and have to finish those chances when we get them. We accumulate a lot. We just need better high quality ones and finish them as well, because we don't always do that. But let's look at the first game then, because Boro won 1-0 at Hull, and it was a late goal from Alex Gilbert, or Alex Gilbert, who gave the 3 points. It was a big goal as well. And Dana, how would you assess the win against Hull?
Yeah, you know what? It was pretty interesting of a game, because I messaged you guys not that long before Alex Gilbert's winner saying this isn't good enough from Boro. And I don't think it was. Even despite that winner, I don't think that performance was good, really. I thought we were pretty slow, pretty predictable. I thought for a long time that we just wouldn't break through Hull, and yeah, we were pretty uncreative in that game. I'd seen 92 minutes at that point of Boro really struggling to create a high quality chance, and then we get that big moment and you see the benefits of Michael Carrick's substitutions, not only with Bergzog obviously supplying the winner for Gilbert, but also Borges makes an impact in our goal, which I'll get on to shortly. But when Gilbert connected with that cross and steered it home, it felt like such a big moment. Relief was a feeling within that, but it just felt really important as well, because results around us, and particularly the Blackburn result, to be fair, against Leeds, 1-1 is a pretty good result for Blackburn, considering that they were also 1-0 down. But it opened up for Boro to jump into 5th place, and it was so close to being a costly result. Like 0-0 against Hull would not have been good enough. Like, it really wouldn't have been good enough. But we found that moment in the end, and it was enough. And I'm absolutely buzzing for Alex Gilbert, Alex Gilbert, because I really enjoyed his performances at the back end of last season, and for both injuries and Finazaz's quality, it just hasn't really got going for him this season. But that sub cameo reminded me and reminded a lot of people that he can make an impact this season. So, yeah, buzzing for him. But yeah, that Boro performance was not really that great, and actually quite similar to the Cardiff game and the performance in that match, which we'll get on to later on. But in the end, good enough, and a really big 3 points for Boro nonetheless.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, it has to be good enough. And if you get the results, then you're happy with it. But before I come to you, Tom, I just want to touch on Matt, because his first away win watching Boro after 10 years of going to away games, and it was only right that we asked him how he felt when he seen Middlesbrough win.
What's up, guys? Hope you're all having a great podcast. And yes, the curse has been lifted. It feels a little bit flatter to talk about it now, following the fact we didn't capitalise on it against Cardiff, but I'm going to try and forget about that game if possible. Because yeah, for the first time in 10 years of following the Boro away from home in the league, finally saw them win. I don't pretend to go to every away game, but I go to a handful every year, and I've just managed to pick the wrong ones every single year. Don't know how I've done it. I've seen some absolute stinkers, but it felt all worth it when Alex Gilbert scored that 93rd minute winner. And to be honest, the away end was fantastic anyway. It was one of the best away ends I've ever been in, especially helped by Johnny Passion being the conductor in the away end with the chants. That was fantastic as well. But yeah, I think if you'd have asked me, obviously I'd have took a scrappy 1-0 or a 4-0 walkover. But I think to have knocked on the door in the manner we did and get the winner in the way we did kind of makes the 10 years of wait worth it. Absolutely amazing. And it's what we deserved, following a much better and far more dominant second half performance where we were banging on the door and finally got our reward, which we don't always get. And it was good to see Boro find a way to win. That unfortunately didn't happen yesterday, and there is a slight cloud over it just because once again Boro failed to capitalise on that with another poor performance at home against Cardiff, where again we failed to beat a team we should beat with a really poor, lacklustre, flat, abject performance. And I can't wait to see you guys dig deep into it on the podcast, because I'm very much looking at it like we were a few weeks ago. Is this just Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough? hot one week, cold the next, because that whole goal now looks huge in the grand scheme of things, doesn't it? With the amount of draws and drop points we've had against teams we really should have won against over the Christmas period. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to look back on and analyse. So yeah, same old for Boro, going around in the same old cycle that we have done for a very, very long time. And maybe this is just us. Maybe this is Michael Carrick's Boro, and maybe we've hit the ceiling. I don't know. But I look forward to hearing you guys analyse it on the podcast, so have a good one. And I can't wait to listen to it.
Thank you very much, Matt. And just for the record, you're still not allowed to go to any more away games. You've seen us win now, and you can't see us again. So, Tom, I'll come to you. At the time, Matt's alluded to it, Dennis alluded to it. That goal from Alex Gilbert, Alex Gilbert, it felt like a massive win, a weight off Boro's shoulders. Is it a shame that we haven't been able to build on it against Cardiff yesterday? Because if you're getting back-to-back wins, it looks more brighter. You got 4 points clear. It would have been a lot better for Boro, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, because results kind of went our way yesterday as well. So it was a big disappointment that we didn't follow it up. I think on the day of the whole game, I think it might have been you, Dana, who said that goal actually felt a little bit like foreshore in the promotion season as to how important that seemed at the time.
Can't remember saying that, but yeah, I'll take that.
It was me, but fine.
Yeah,
I'll see how it is.
Okay.
I'll see how it is. Whatever. Oh, thanks.
And it did feel important at the time, but then we followed it up with that performance yesterday against Cardiff, and I always kind of think to myself, just in terms of where you'd prefer to get the points in a run of games. And I was like, if we'd have drawn against Hull and won against Cardiff, I'd have been a little bit more, I'd have been disappointed, but not as disappointed as I was yesterday. Because I expect to win the home games. I don't expect us to win every away game. But the fact that we got a well-deserved win against Hull, we played actually okay throughout it, and I mean that's okay as in our standards, because we could play a lot better. But then we make an absolute comedy of errors in the lead up to Cardiff's goal yesterday, which wasn't really that evident against Hull. And I'm just like, what is it about playing at home that's kind of doing this to us? Because I was listening in the morning on the way back, and people were saying oh, if you misplace a pass at home, the fans can get on your back more and stuff. But yeah, they will, and you should expect that, and it shouldn't really have that much of an effect. And the more it happens at the moment, the more it's going to happen. No, that doesn't make any sense. The more you're misplacing passes and stuff at the moment, the more that's going to happen. So the only people in control of that are the team, and it's up to them to resolve it. So yeah, it was a real shame that we couldn't follow it up yesterday, because it's the type of form we need to stay in the playoffs, but also give ourselves the best chance when the season ends, and hopefully we are in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I hope we are as well. And on the fans' comment in terms of getting on your back, yeah, there was a high expectation at the Riverside now. We've seen how good this team is and where they should be going and where they are going. I think when it dips below that level, there's a lot of frustration that happens very quickly. It's like having that exposure to luxury. Do you know what I mean? If you're going, I don't know, first class train ticket or whatever, or whatever you go on to, and then you go on to standard class, you notice the difference. You go, I wish I'd in that again. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like those things where we're not hitting that consistent level of great football at regular level, which I think annoys people to some aspect, but I don't think we're too much of a bad side, I'll be honest. I think there's still a lot we can do. There's still things that I'm looking at and I'm thinking, you know what, I think we could improve X, Y, and Z, and we'll come on to that probably in our questions. But yeah, I think we're in a difficult spot right now, but we need to improve and find answers to the solution, find answers to the problems that we're having, because there's some solutions to be delivered, I would say.
Yeah, the players set the expectation. The players set the expectation under Michael Carrick 2 seasons ago when we were watching scintillating football. I remember saying that was the best football that I've ever seen from a Middlesbrough side, and I still maintain that opinion. And I don't think that it was a wrong opinion. It was the best football that I'd ever seen at Middlesbrough supporting this club. So the players have set that expectation, not only through their performances, like I just mentioned there, but noises coming out of the club that they want to aim for automatic promotion. People will say, well, what else are they expected to say? Nothing at all, maybe. So, yeah, the players have set that. So I don't think that, and I'm not saying that anyone here has suggested so, but I don't think the expectation's unfounded. It's a result of the players setting that. So, yeah, there's people expect more from Boro at home and they're not delivering that, which is really frustrating.
Yeah, you don't sell tickets for mid-table, do you? Do you know what I mean?
No.
And I think you're always going to say it, but I just want to go back to the whole game before we come on to Cardiff. The winner, of course, we said it was a big moment, and Alex Gilbert got it. And Dana, it was a really good run from him and a well-worked goal from Boro, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like this goal for obvious reasons, of course, late winner. But I think it also shows how Neto Borges, and specifically how where he's positioned, the position that he takes up, impacts play. He doesn't touch the ball in this move, but he still contributes. As we've seen since the Sheffield Wednesday game, Borges has been operating in the half space, which means he's making underlapping runs due to Bergsorg's positioning out wide. As the ball is making its way to Bergsorg, you can see Louis Coyle, Hull captain. He takes a glance towards Borges, who at that point is advancing forward, still underlapping. Bergsorg receives the ball. Borges continues to advance in field towards the space between right back Coyle and the right centre back. Coyle then retreats. He then tucks in and positions himself narrow, because if he doesn't, if he goes wide to attend to Bergsorg, a pretty dangerous bit of space opens up for a pass to Borges. Because Coyle has to deal with Borges on the inside, Bergsorg, it creates this whole runway out wide for him to run into. A lot of people have mentioned Hull's winger Kamara, and he should see the danger unfolding there. He just leisurely jogs back. He's got a lot of stick for that, so it is poor from him. But I want to focus on a Boro lens, and I want to praise us, really, because obviously I'm a Boro fan, so I'll do that. And then, yeah, Bergsorg gets down the wing. Gilbert makes a really good run across the penalty area, connects with the cross, and megs Alfie Jones to score the winner. And it sparks great scenes of celebration on the touchline with the coaching staff. We don't usually see this from Carrick, actually. Him, his brother, Grant Ledbetter, Jonathan Woodgate, they all just this outpouring of probably relief for them as well, actually. So it was a really good moment. And I want to know what Johnny House and how he celebrated that, because obviously Johnny House was in the crowd at the MKM Stadium. I want a Johnny Howson cam, because he's quite a measured figure, isn't he? He's quite quiet and unassuming. But I just want to know if there were limbs all over the shop. Well, I mean, obviously there were and they weren't, but I want to know if Johnny Howson was a part of that celebration, because I'm sure he will have been, but I just want to see it.
Just crowd surfing in the Boro end.
Yeah, take this top up, just spin it around his head. Need to see it.
We absolutely do, just passion everywhere. But for Alex Gilbert, he had an injury earlier in the season, and last year he was probably the back end of the season. He was probably one of the big bright sparks towards the end of it. Do you think he has much of a role now for the rest of the season? Because I feel like it is quite difficult to dislodge Finn Azaz with his creative numbers that he's putting out at the moment. But do you think he has a role to play at all towards the end of the season?
Yeah, I think he could do. I think it could end up being fairly similar to the end of last season for him, but probably just it starts earlier this year, and it is probably a big step in terms of his development, like as a first team player at Middlesbrough, because we could start to see him a little bit more regularly next season. And that might be where we kind of start to see the best of him. But he did well at the end of last season. Unfortunate to be out with an injury, but there were a couple of games he played at the start of this season, Leeds away in the Cup being one of them, where he did play really well. He's clearly got the ability. We just need to see it on a regular basis. So I can see him being brought on as sub more and more at the moment until we start to get return from him, and then it might be the case that he does get the occasional start. I don't expect to see him getting regular starts this season, barring an injury problem, touch wood. But I think this season it's still important for his development, and I think we'll start to see more and more of him now.
I like him. I want to see him get more minutes, but when you are in direct competition with Finn Azaz, who's one of the best players in the Championship and probably the best number 10 in the Championship, then it's always going to be difficult for him. But as I said earlier, he's shown that when he comes off the bench, he can make an impact. And I wonder if there's another position for him in the team, maybe left wing. I don't know. I think he did play from our lowdown on him, Johnny. I'm pretty sure that he was a pretty versatile forward that could play on the wing as well. But then again, do you take out Bergzorg or McGree for him? I'm not sure, but I do like Gilbert. I think he will have his minutes now that he's obviously come off the bench and made an impact. I want to see more of him because I do like Finn Azaz, but I also like Gilbert. So it's good. It's options, Dawn. We've got good options in that position.
Yeah, and I would like to see him maybe a little bit deeper as well. You know, when we looked at Ballas's performance yesterday, which I didn't think he was great at all. He's comfortable on the ball. He can pick out the pass. He can recycle play quite well and can create chances. So there is an opportunity for him to maybe stake a place in that deeper role for the interim. But yeah, I really like it. Yeah,
it's interesting that actually, because now I'm remembering on our lowdown, he did operate pretty deep. Yeah. And his position might not have been, when you look at the formations before a game, it might not have been as one of the number 8s, as we call them. But he definitely did operate in that type of position. So whether he has the defensive discipline to do that in this system, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's an interesting point there, Johnny.
Yeah, I think he needs more minutes. He definitely needs more minutes. And whether it's position in deeper role or higher up, then that's great. But I want him to develop. And at the moment, I feel like he's the Adam Forshaw for Clayton and Ledbetter a little bit. You can't drop either of them. And Forshaw was a good player at the time. And you know, he'd make things tick when he came on and you would see a game out and you were happy with his performances and you could see why he would make a stake claim in the team. But when there's players in front of you who are just operating at such a higher level, it's really difficult to get in. So I feel for him in a way, but when he goes full Gilbert, there's nothing stopping him, in my opinion. So shout out to Alex Gilbert. I think he was really, really good. And, you know, hopefully the Gilbert banter carries on. But let's look at the Cardiff game now, because Boro did go ahead with Emmanuel Latte after the 10th minute. And then Callum Chambers, who scored his first goal since 2022, equalised for Boro and added to the list of former Boro players scoring against Boro at the Riverside. Tom, how would you assess things yesterday against Cardiff? Because apparently you look miserable. Did you feel miserable as well?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just it wasn't worth being freezing cold watching that. When we went 1-0 up, I thought, great, let's add to this now. Let's, we'll build on the lead, get some goal difference built up, and at that point, the match has only gone one way. Then they equalise. And as I mentioned earlier, for me, that seemed like an absolute comedy of errors on the lead up to it. I was saying to my dad at the time, I was like, I am a fan of us playing out from the back, and I don't want that to kind of get misconstrued. I think it's really effective. But I think there is such a thing as overplaying at the back, and I think that's what we did at the in the follow-up to that goal, because we were just keeping hold of it too long. And we've said it a few times in recent weeks. We need to be smarter, and the players kind of need to recognise when we're not able to play out from the back. And, if we want to try and play a long ball into the wings or over the top for Latte Laugh, try that instead. Yes, it's conceding possession, but you're not getting forced further and further back towards your own goal until a mistake's made, and then we're in a dangerous position. And that's just what I think happens. And I think it happened again in the second half. Thankfully, not to a point where we conceded, but I think we really made our own problems in that game. Cardiff were pretty poor, I will say. The one thing I will give them credit for is they came with a game plan, and executed it. They defended well in a low block, and I think that has been seen time and time again this season. Teams come to the Riverside, playing a low block, we can't get past them. We'll try moving it from side to side, can't do anything, recycle possession, and it just ends up like the last 10 minutes of that game where Cardiff were pinned in their own box, and we were just kind of, the fans are getting frustrated because we're passing it around the centre backs in the centre, like outside centre circle in their half. Everyone's in the Cardiff side of the pitch, and we just can't do anything because there's no space. And that we've said this a lot of times, but we need to find a solution to that, because you look at the teams who've been successful in this league recently. I think, for an example, Burnley a couple of years ago, similar kind of style of play. They were like quite possession based and could attack well, but they found a way to break down these defenses. We still haven't, and it's something that we need to address, and it could be a key to unlocking our home form a little bit. Because if teams are going to come here and sit deep and like look to frustrate us, this is what we need to figure out how to break down to get more points at home and to build our home form.
Yeah, and just on the low block, we've spoken about this so many times. It's a problem that isn't just affecting Middlesbrough; it affects a lot of teams. You know, it's not like Middlesbrough can't unlock this thing. Some teams just can't, because it's made and created to nullify space and to make things difficult for teams to create chances in those areas. And on Boro yesterday, I think there was probably two things where I picked up on. One is tempo. I think the tempo was really slow against Hull. It was slow against Cardiff. And when you are against teams like that, you need to stretch them, and you need to get the ball from side to side. That big switch can be on, and then, or you either having to play through the middle, but if you have to do so, it has to be on the transition really quickly. You have to give up something up sometimes to really gain more when you expand teams. But I thought Carrick was spot on for bringing Ben Doak on the left-hand side, because you want to stretch your team out, play with an out-and-out, two out-and-out wingers, which I thought was a good tactical switch. But secondly, if I was in Carrick's position yesterday, I appreciate I don't know the full ins and outs of the team, but I would have probably taken Dan Barlaser off and would have put Alex Gilbert on and maybe play with a 4-1 really, and try to, or Riley McGree, let Hackney sit a little bit deeper like he does for under 21s, and just see how we can break this team down a little bit more. But there was this tempo side of things. We have to be a little quicker, and also try to be a bit more expansive and cause some more problems, because like, when you play in front of a team so much, and I wish I had the graphics to show it, but there was a lot of times yesterday where we were playing back to goal as well, and if you're a defensive unit and a team is just playing in front of you, then you've got, it's an easy afternoon for you, I would say. You want to be getting that ball in behind, causing that long ball, a little bit of tempo, make it tick. But I think there's a bit of fatigue in there too. But I don't really want to say that's a bit of a problem too much, to be honest.
I don't really agree that the decision to put Jones on the left was spot on from Carrick. I thought that Doak's influence and threat was nullified that way. I mean, to be honest, it is quite interesting that Doak, I don't think from memory, seems to have particularly strong second halves in games. It's almost like he fades, which is kind of understandable. He's a young player, but I thought keep him on that right hand side, because he was getting at O'Dowda so well in that first half. I will say credit to O'Dowda, because I think he sorted himself out, and he wasn't getting absolutely rinsed in the second half, but I still thought keep Doak on that right hand side. He's our outlet. He's the one spark you talk about, and you were absolutely spot on to mention the slow tempo to the game. He was the quickness in a pretty slow Middlesbrough team yesterday, and I just thought that putting him on that left hand side slowed him down, because I do think that Doak, I don't know if he's ambidextrous, but he's very comfortable on both feet, I would say. Pretty comfortable, at least within his dribbling. So I can maybe understand why that was made, but I don't know. I didn't agree with that. And also, there was the inverting of Neto Borges, I don't think benefited Boro in that second half. And I'm interested to hear what you think about that, Johnny, because Cardiff were trying to compact the middle, and with Borges in there, I can see what Carrick was trying to do to stop a numerical disadvantage against Boro. But I just think, as you mentioned, stretch the play, have Borges and whoever it is Jones if he came on the left, Dork when he did come on the left, Bergzorg when he was on the pitch. Double up and try to stretch them out of position. I think having Neto Borges inverting and underlapping in that second half in particular, I think it worked against Boro and actually it helped Cardiff out a little bit.
Yeah, the inversion definitely doesn't help out, but you try and create a movement elsewhere, I would say. But Engel would have been more beneficial in the second half. If you are wanting to play with more of an inverted winger, you have a full back who can try and get in behind and then can whip the ball in the box. And I always feel like an Engel cross can be very dangerous, or it can be one where he just skies it into Rose's head and hits someone in the head. But
Me.
at least he's getting that ball into the box, or at least attempting to. You try and stretch him out, I would say, but Borges can still make that run out wide, but it's that inversion, which I don't think it's a problem. It's just like, it's just another way of playing, really, because if you take Borges out in the middle, you would probably want your winger to come in, where maybe a Riley McGree might be a bit more beneficial because he's able to float in the middle, and then you've still got Engel on that left-hand side to whip the ball in, more people in the box, of course. So it's like it can be a lot of different things, because they might adjust things, make it more compact. They went 5 at the back in the last 15, 20 minutes as well. It was like a 5-4-1, really compact in the shape. And you are looking at things, go, well, actually, where can we dominate? And when it's so tight and park the bus, it can be really difficult. That's where tempo comes into it so much, and you try and pull teams out, just try and stretch it. But then you are prone to a transition where we spoke about maybe last year, where Boro on the transition were just, let's see. Now we kind of compress into like a 4-4-2, which is really quite a nice balance, but you'd still probably want to improve it even more, I would say. But like I said, if you took maybe Barlas off, you could probably have Hackney just sit, and then you were able to have that 4 midfield who can maybe try and, you'll match them, but also you'd be able to get more bodies in the box. So I think that might have been a solution to another problem, but there's so much you could go into, I would say. I think it's really difficult.
We saw the benefits of Borges inverting. I mentioned it earlier in the breakdown for the Hull goal, so maybe that was in mind, but I just think that game yesterday, maybe again, is, as I mentioned before, it's outcome bias because we didn't manage to break Cardiff down and get that winner. So it was just an interesting one. It worked in the whole game, it just didn't, I don't think it was the right thing, especially considering that Dork was the one that was the left winger. The difference between yesterday and the Hull goal is that Bergzorg was occupying that space and was pretty direct, and Dork was cutting inside a little bit. So yeah, it'll work, Borges inverting. I just don't think that it was personally the right move yesterday.
Yeah, and look, nothing's ever going to be a right move unless something good happens out of it, right? So it's
true. Yeah.
But you can always change things. But on their goal, because you've both alluded to it there, what do you think went wrong on the equaliser yesterday? Because Callum Chambers won, great finish, but Boro could do a lot better in this moment. And how many times have we said that this season? I mean, Delphi doing a Cruyff turn in his own box. But what do you think went wrong leading up to it, Dana?
Well, there was a few things. I think big theme was space, but initially we lose 2 aerial duels. Firstly, it was Delphi up against Ruben Colwill. Secondly, it was Hayden Hackney getting out jumped by a 5'6" midfielder, which is probably not the best thing in the world for Hayden Hackney to have been beaten by. But yeah, it's a big theme of this goal is space. So the ball is on Boro's left-hand side, Cardiff's right-hand side. Players coming in field, and there's just a big gap for Manolis Siopis, who ends up delivering the ball into the box to deliver that ball into the box. People will point out Hackney's position because he's been drawn towards the corner of the box by Alex Robertson. I think Hackney there is fine, but somebody has to spot that danger to close down that passing angle, cut that passing lane off towards Siopis, because as it turns out, when he does receive the ball, he's got too much space there. If you're Delano Bergzorg in that position, I feel like you have to be able to spot that danger and just try to cut off that pass towards Siopis. In fairness to Latilaf, I mean, Lath is rapid, isn't he? He tries so hard to close that cross down because he sees the danger, but he's just a little bit too late. And then Fry, I don't know what he's doing there, to be honest with you. It's just a fancy flick. Just get the ball out. I think it gets. I do, when I watch the goal back, I do have a little bit of sympathy for him because I think the ball just gets stuck under his feet. But I've seen it before. Matt Clark has done it definitely, where the ball has got stuck under his feet and he still punts that ball out. You've got to make sure that you're not doing anything clever there, not taking any risks. That's a risk. When you watch the goal back, you don't really see Finn Azaz until Callum Chambers enters the frame. He gets caught on his. He kind of gets caught on his heels, does Finn Azaz, but he's not expecting, well, probably not expecting Dill Fry to try a fancy flick pass out as a clearance, and it just gives Callum Chambers that extra yard, half a yard, to be able to. I mean, it's a great finish, to be fair. Even if Tom Glover was double, triple the size that he is, both in height and width, you wouldn't be able to get it. It's one of those finishes that dwarfs the goalkeeper, but I think it's seeing the danger, that goal, being able to, okay, players being pulled out of position here in Hackney there, Bergzog, can you get over and cover? It's also just being smarter in the moment. And unfortunately for Del Fry, he's been good since he returned to the team, but that wasn't a good moment from him, and he'll know that. But fair play to Callum Chambers. I forgot he existed, if I'm being honest. I enjoyed him at Middlesbrough, actually, Callum Chambers, former Loney. And he didn't celebrate, so yeah, gone walk.
Yeah, on that goal as well, I think a lot of it is, I would like to see Bergzog come in central, get that shape and make it difficult. Just get that man out. So you just remove the outlet, the ball has to go back then. And when it does go back, you're in a good shape and have to recycle it, and then it's quite difficult. But then, yeah, for Dale Fry, it does get stuck, but just knock out for a corner. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, just get rid of it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do a Cruyff turn your own box. And if it went to Barlasser as well, Barlasser's facing where his position is actually in a difficult place. So really, he can get caught. So I just don't understand it. It was stupid. But that's just butter. That's just butter. That, you know. So if anyone wants to say that, but there was probably another talking point I would say in the game. And Tom, I love coming to you for these things. I really do. Talk to me about the official performance yesterday, because honestly, I think if you took a shot for the amount of times there was offsides yesterday, you'd have been leathered. Secondly, you always stick up for the officials. You know, I've always seen you the letter of the law. You know, you're always backing them up. But what was your take on them yesterday?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying that they weren't the reason that we drew that game. We had enough of the ball to create our chances, take them, and win that game. However, he was absolutely fucking horrific.
Say what you really think.
I know the refs get assessed every game. If an assessor was watching that, there's no chance he should ever be refereeing in the Championship again. And it also goes the same for the linesman. I should have known it was going to be a pretty bad game from an officiating standpoint from probably about the 4th or 5th minute, where I think it was Bergzorg lost control of the ball or tried to pass or something. It blatantly took a touch off a Cardiff player and he blew for a goal kick. I was like, all right, that's the type of referee we've got today. He was blown for fouls that weren't fouls. Bergzorg was getting kicked all over the place and not one foul given. I think, in fairness, the first time Bergzorg went down was very soft, but it seemed like he'd made his mind up on Bergzorg from that incident and just thought, you know what, you're not getting any fouls. So from that point on, Cardiff were just kicking lumps out of it, Bergzorg, nothing being given. Obviously, the big moment in the second half that got everyone riled up, pretty much cross-checking Hayden Hackney on a counter-attack. And not given anything, just all right, yeah, I got in the middle, in the way of play, I'll bring it back for a drop ball. He just kind of looked at him and just ran off. And I'm like, what on earth are you doing? I noticed in the first half there was a point where I was like, that he's very close to play in the middle of the pitch there. But nothing happened at that point. And I was like, we played around him. I was like, right, that's fine. But bit of an odd position for a referee to take. He does that in the second half, and he's just like, oh yeah, play on. Like I really don't get that at all. And then I was looking on Twitter because for some reason I could get signal inside the Riverside, and like I think we posted something saying like yet another foul on Dork and no yellows given or something like that. And you had all the Cardiff fans commenting on it, going, "Oh yeah, well, oh, sorry, no, it was about offside, and it was like, oh yeah, your players are constantly stood offside and stuff like that." Well, they weren't. Like it's nice to be in that position when you're down at the bottom of the table and things are being given your way, and you'd be like, oh yeah, it's like trolls on Xbox or something, like get good and stuff like that. But yeah, it seemed really weird. He will have given stuff incorrectly, against Cardiff as well. I'm not trying to say he was completely biased in favour of one team. He was just inept. And honestly, if he's not refereeing in the conference in the next couple of weeks, there's something wrong with how the referees are assigned out in this country, or a serious lack of them for him to be refereeing in the Championship.
Did you see who he was, Tom? He was the same referee that gave Ayala's goal offside against Birmingham in the promotion season. I thought during the game, Tom Neild rings a bell, and then I twittered it, and same ref. Oh, he was a linesman for that game, but yeah, same official.
Yeah, well, his eyes still don't work, so
he's work in the dark. Work in the dark. Well, we'll move on, and I think we should chat about Boro's form. And we've had 5 draws, 2 wins, 1 defeat in the last 8, and unbeaten in 6 that we mentioned at the start. But on paper, that sounds, if you're 1 defeat in 8, that sounds quite good, but it doesn't really tell the full story, does it? And reflecting on those results, how are you feeling about Boro's December and festive period? Do you think it was a success, or do you think it was a failure?
Oh, we dropped the ball. Let's be honest. Unbeaten in 6. When Dan Barlaser said that after the game yesterday, my head was on Mars. I had to remind myself I was on the radio, because I swear to God, like, I know he's a player and he's been put under the microphone. He's put a microphone under him, like, after a game, like, directly after a game. So you may be trying to look at the positive side of things, but unbeaten in 6. Let's add some context to that. We drew to the worst team in the league in Plymouth, who have since sacked their manager because they were poor, and have been for a considerable amount of time. We squandered a 3-goal lead against Sheffield Wednesday. We were so good in that first half and so bad in the second. And we've drawn to a Cardiff side who were, I think, second bottom and poor. Second bottom for a reason. Yeah, we drew against Burnley, great. We beat Millwall. But, like, the games that you were expecting Boro to get maximum points from, we didn't. And the Cardiff game was not a bad day at the office. The Cardiff game was a normal day at the office. This is what Boro have been doing all season, dropping points against sides that we really should be getting maximum points from. And so it it irked me. And it has irked me when people say, like, oh, we're 5th. We're 5th because the league is shit. Like, I've said it before, we have a high ceiling and a low floor. This is not the type of side that goes very far. And I don't care if I'm being Moaning Myrtle. This Middlesbrough team are not getting promoted. I'm writing that off now. I've seen enough. And yeah, I need to calm down now because I'm getting annoyed. But, like, unbeaten in 6, I don't care. Like, we have been poor. Like, we've dropped points. We keep dropping points. We keep seeing the same problems. Can't break down a low block. Okay, we did it against Hull, but then we don't do it again the next game against Cardiff. We gift teams goals. That's been a problem since the start of the season, and we're more than halfway now. Is that really a team that gets promoted? The playoffs, they're not a lottery for a team that are effective, for a team that know their stuff, a team that is savvy. They're not. The playoffs is only a lottery for teams like Middlesbrough, that you can't guess which Middlesbrough are going to turn up. So, rant over at unbeaten in 6. No.
Yeah, I was going to get your thoughts on it as well, Tom, to be honest, because For me as well, I thought the unbeaten in 6 mark. I would rather them came out and said, actually, you know what? Yeah, we are unbeaten in 6, but we should be a lot better than what we've shown over the last few weeks. It's very difficult, I think, from a fan perspective, from when you're looking at the league and you're going, oh, we've got some good results here. We can really start to get some points, get a bit closer to that gap. We'd still probably be in 5th, honestly. Even if we did win those games, we would still be where we are. But that position would have been cemented. And you're going, right, how can we chase down the automatics? But now you're going, God, I wish we just secure the playoff places now. And our frustration's still there. But what's your thoughts on it as well, Tom?
I'm kind of in full agreement with you guys. I heard the interview live with Dan Barlasser, and when he said undefeated in 6, I was like, I can't wait for this to come back to Dana and see what she has to say, because I was like, no, it's not a positive thing. And I mean, as a very top level, if we were looking at this season at the start and say you're going to be undefeated in 6 over the festive period, where there's like 3 games a week at times, over the years, Boro tend to bottle it over Christmas and have a really bad run of form. You'd be like, oh yeah, I'd take undefeated in 6 over Christmas. And then you add the context of why it's undefeated in 6 and be like, right, it could be so much better and it should be so much better. So it's not something to brag about. It actually is poor, regardless of if we haven't lost or not.
Yeah, it comes back down to that standard, isn't it? It's a standard of being where we are and should be better than what we currently are performing. I feel for Carrick in some aspect, because there is things that you can't really iron out in the festive period because the games come so quick and fast. There's resting, there's players who have played over 70, 80 minutes. They'll probably take that next day as a recovery day, and then the next minute you're in the next game. So there's not really much in the training ground that you can do. So coming into the Blackburn game, we've got a break where we can start to implement the changes that we need to implement. And I still think there's a lot of work that we need to do. Game management needs to be one of them. The rest might help us in terms of tempo, but continuously trying to be a better defensive unit is probably the third thing I'm looking at and going, the teams above us are really sound in certain moments, and we don't really give much away. But what Boro do give away is moments of madness. We're a team just who love create crazy moments away. And if you were to go up this season, you're looking at like another Southampton, because we just aren't good enough to make that jump yet in terms of like real solidity. But that gap is getting bigger and bigger, and you need to show or be more wise to knowing when to play, not when to play, and being a lot smarter and more mature in your performances, because I don't think we're really showing that right now, to be brutally honest. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to podcast questions. Yes, podcast questions. Every week you get the chance to ask us a question on Twitter and Boro _ Breakdown. Email theborobreakdown@hotmail.com or on Blue Sky as well. And the first question, it's from Danny, and he says, which players would you move on in January if you could? Be ruthless. Wow, okay, well, let's be ruthless. We'll go one player each, I would say. One player each, or maybe actually no. Let's do a collective. I felt a bit harsh to one each. But let's go first. Dana, would you go first on this one? And I'll jump in and we'll go some.
Marcus Force. He's too unreliable. He's not. He's a very good player, Marcus Force, but he's injured all the time. Danny said be ruthless, so there's me being ruthless. In an ideal world, Marcus Force would be starting for me, but he's just time and time and time again, that poor guy cannot get up to speed. He can't get fit. And I think with an unreliable asset like that, if a question like this pops up about ruthlessness, I'm going to be controversial from the off. Marcus Force.
Yeah, you just can't get fit. And you're saying you can't get fit. Really difficult. There's a lot of players who are really struggling to get back after being injured. If I was being ruthless, I'd probably say Seny Dieng. I'd get rid of. I think Middlesbrough's goalkeeper position looking at the three that we have is average. And I think there's better goalkeepers out there to get us up the division than we need to. If we were to be smart in the market, I quite like Sam Tickle at Wigan. I think he's a good young goalkeeper, still in a bit of experience, which doesn't really help him. But I think a better goalkeeper is where we need to improve on. So I'd probably offload Senny Deng if I was looking at a starter, given that force can't really get fit at the minute. And then Tom, who would you go for?
I hate these types of questions because I can't look at them without thinking, I don't want to just indistinctly get rid of a player and not think about who we're bringing in, because I don't actually mind most of our players. But for me, it would be Dan Barlaser. It's not a reactionary thing to that performance yesterday, because rightly so, he was called out on the performance yesterday. It wasn't a good one, but he's had good games for us.
Yeah, I agree.
The reason I would kind of get rid, and this is, again, it's completely thinking about we bring someone in to replace him, is in terms of the profile of the midfielder that we have in our team, for me, just doesn't really fit. I mean, he's maybe a good option to have in some games. But for me, our best partnership this season is Hackney and Morris. And to a lesser extent, Howson can kind of do those jobs. He is more fit into that sort of profile than Barlaser is. I know we had alleged interest from Turkey in the summer in Dan Barlaser. If that interest was there again and we can, make a little bit of profit on him, because I think he is a better... I don't know. Is he a better player now than when he came in? I don't know. I don't know if his stock's as high, maybe. But if we can get our money back or make a little bit more, and we've got someone on our recruitment list who's similar to Aidan Morris, I would say make that change. Sell Barlaser, bring in a player who is a very similar profile to Aidan Morris, because over the last month or so, especially, we've really missed Aidan Morris, and I think that's shown our performances. So, and I'm sure as part of a long-term plan for the team, we probably do have someone lined up to replace Barlaser and someone to replace Howson. It was maybe going to be, next season or the season after or whatever. If we have the ability to make that change in January, I would say do it and bring in someone who is more the type of profile that we need to fit into this starting 11.
Yeah, that's a great shout, to be fair, Tom. And I'm about Dan Barlaser as well. I do like him in moments. And yesterday, I think it was I think the epitome of his performance was that free kick in the second half. To be honest, if you were to kind of that was to sum up his performance yesterday. But everyone has bad performances, and on him, I feel like he can never win with Boro fans in some aspect. And I feel when you can't win, regardless of what you do, you could score a 40-yard worldie, score a hat-trick, and I still feel like he'd be Marmite character. And when that happens, it might just be best for you to move on rather than to, get out of it and grow again than stay where you are. But yeah, I thought it was poor yesterday, but good show. I didn't think about that one. The next question is from Stephen, saying, with the playoff race looking like 5th or 6th to play for, would you sell Latte Laugh for 20 million in January if offered? Tom, would you sell Latte Laugh for 20 million if offered?
No. We were offered that in the summer apparently, and turned it down. And I mean, I've said a couple of times when we've been talking about it recently, I think there's a little bit more of a tax added in January. I think especially for strikers, teams don't want to sell their best players in January, and you do have to pay over the odds for players in January. We would have to if we were looking to replace Latte Laugh. So I'd be looking more 25 upwards for Latte Laugh in January. I'm not necessarily against selling him, because at least we wouldn't have to put up with seeing his agent pipe up every couple of weeks. But I think the way we'd have to do it would be the difficult part, because we'd have to get something sorted before we sell him. So clubs aren't just thinking, Boro have just made 25 million there, we can charge them over the odds for players. We would have to get something in place to replace Latif if that offer was kind of on the table.
Yeah, would you, Dan, just to add to that, would you sell him?
No, but my reason is different. I think just as a fan, I like Latif. I enjoy watching him. I think he's a perfect fit for this team. I would lock him in Rockcliffe and also cut off any contact with that agent of his. But from a business standpoint, he's going to leave, isn't he? He's going to leave at some point, and I think that some point is soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it is this month because he's a big asset for us and he's taken pretty well to English football. Obviously took his time to really get going, but once he got going, my God, it was scintillating form at the back end of last season, and he's just got double figures. He's just reached his 10th goal of the season, so it's seemingly inevitable that we'll lose him. But yeah, as a fan, I always want us to keep the best players. I just am in the delusion, thinking and hoping that we will, and knowing that we won't.
Yeah, fair. And I think if he was to go, yeah, you've got a race on your hands to get another striker in. Who are you looking at, really? Who's going to give you that same impact? I quite like Corney at Wickham. I think he's a similar profile-ish, scoring good goals at the moment, but that step up, which I think is going to be difficult. And if you go up, you've got like a player who's just playing League One, but now in the Premier League very, very quickly. And it's that double step, which could be quite difficult. So it's a difficult point. I would not like to be in Chris Jones or Kieran Scott's shoes at this moment in time because you're probably panicking for Latif going, but also trying to bring in someone similar and fit in as well. And sometimes it takes about a year for a player to really settle into. So there's always that. And the next question, it's from Will and says, would Boro have more success and create more chances with an out-and-out winger like Doak on both sides? We alluded to this a little bit earlier on. I think the out-and-out winger on both sides is a position we probably should have addressed in the summer. And I was kind of on my wish list to bring in a left winger, to be honest, because it just changes the game slightly and just gives you a different options on to help you break teams down. Like I said, I thought Doak to the left was probably a good decision, but also having Engel on there would have definitely helped. Ryan McGree, he's an adaptable player. He can play on the wing if he needed to. He just likes to float more centrally. And I think he can be adaptable to play that position if need be, but just doesn't have probably the pace or power that Delano has. Just different profiles of players, both technically good, can unlock defences. I think I would just like an out-and-out winger is like a nice to have over than an essential signing, because really, if you brought in a left winger now, where would the fit? You'd have to probably get rid of someone to bring them in, to be honest. But should we move on? Should we move on to the praise and place? Yes, the praise and place, the only place I like to give praise to a player, a coach and staff member. Tom's outfit yesterday when he matched with our best friend as well. Like for like, shoes for shoes, top for top. And I'm going to say my current chips was fantastic yesterday, so I do apologise for that. And then we'll throw out our options Dawn team as well on Pro Clubs as well for their last minute heroics last week. So, Dana, praise and place, who was in there this week for you?
I just want to put Gilbert in there because, yeah, big moment against Hull. I think you saw how happy everyone was for him, the elation that was shown after his goal. You could see it in his face, actually, how happy he was. It was just pure unbridled joy, really. And then the celebrations after the game where he was giving the Gareth Southgate fist pumps to the crowd. It was a really good moment. And I still hope, actually, that could be a catalyst because it seemed like a very together away end at the MKM Stadium. And I remember at the King Power last season at Leicester, amid that really difficult week where the prices went up, Boro fans really, really connected. They rallied together. And I feel like we can have that catalyst of togetherness again because it just feels like there's a big disconnection in the stands at the moment, which is a really, really big shame. The players and the team need to bring the fans together. But yeah, that was a good moment after the match. And yeah, I just want to praise Alex Gilbert. And I want to praise the Boro fans, actually, because they were mega loud in that second half, orchestrated by Johnny Howson, basically.
Yeah, I want to give a special mention for Howson as well. I thought it was nice to see a player in the away end. I don't think you'll ever see it in a home game because the crowd's a little bit different, but those away ends are really like passionate, follow the club everywhere, group of fans who will do anything to watch the team play. And it was nice to see House in there. Maybe put a couple more Boro players in there. If they're suspended or injured, get them in, start a few chances, takes the pressure off Yusuf a little bit as well to do that too. But I think in my present place, I think Alex Gilbert has to be there. He has to be there. Big up Alex Gilbert. Absolutely love him. So congrats to him. And then also for Boro as well on a moment, yes, I think it was the memorial thing. I think it was a really nice touch from the club to personalise the losses of what fans have suffered over the last 12 months. I think it was a really nice touch. Going to football with your family is a really sentimental thing. And I think the club approached it in the right way yesterday and gave people that moment and that special moment to kind of say, yeah, they can still enjoy it, even though that person's not there anymore. So I thought that was a really nice touch. And then for you, Tom, as well, who's in your present place this week as well?
I'm going to say very similar to you, Johnny. I mean, Alex Gilbert for obvious reasons, but I did think it was a really nice touch from the club in terms of the memorial thing yesterday. It was actually something that was brought up in one of the more recent Boro Supporters Forum meetings, where we were asked to ask, can the club have kind of something similar to what Preston do with the Gentry Day? I don't know if this has come as a direct result of that, or if the club will maybe plan it anyway. But it's good to kind of see that happening. And just as an extra point, now that I've touched on it, for people who don't know, we are part of Boro Supporters Forum. I go to the meetings every 6 weeks, I believe it is. We've got another one coming up. So if people have anything they want brought up in those meetings, feel free to email us, and we'll do our best to represent you there.
Thank you very much for that, Tom. Yes, big shout out to the MSF as well. So let's move on. It's Cup Fever time. FA Cup third round, Blackburn come to town. And Boro play Blackburn in the FA Cup for the first time since 2002, before TVs were invented in Burnley. If you listened to this podcast before, you will know exactly what I'm on about. And if not, Dennis thought there was a TV in Burnley, which, by the way, probably a highlight of 2024 was seeing that exact TV, and it was delivered. It was shown to us on
and I'm
Twitter
telling
as well.
you, it was from 2003. Was it not? It looked exactly like the type of TV that you wheel in at school, and then like they show you like a documentary or something. That was the TV. So you were laughing at me, Johnny Bullock. I remember that, but I was spot on there.
It was more so that you thought 2003 was old, to be honest. And that's where I was more laughing. I was like, God, well, what the hell am I? And Tom, at the time, it was Elliot on the pod. So, I felt you made me old, massively old. But speaking of 2002, when we last played each other, Middlesbrough won the game 1-0, and it helps me with my trivia question today. And it's a two-parter, of course, because I thought, I can't give you 30 seconds to just do one answer to the question. So the question is today. Middlesbrough play Blackburn in the FA Cup in 2002. A, who was the Blackburn player who formerly played for Boro that day? And secondly, Boro won the game 1-0, but who was the scorer and what minute? So your timer starts now. Time is up. Put your pens down. Switch your TV back to colour, Dana, since you think it was that old ages ago. We'll go for your answers. So, A, who was the Blackburn player who formerly played for Boro that day? And then B, Boro won the game 1-0. Who was the scorer and what minute? Dana, I'll come to you first. What are your answers?
Just wild stabs in the dark. I've put the Yak, Alan Boxic, and 56 minutes. chance. Why are you laughing, Tom?
Just
was
so
two.
Yakubu playing for Blackburn in 2002. I know there was always the thing of how young he actually was, but it's no. I think it was a bit before his time.
Yeah, a little bit. Just no, maybe not Portsmouth at that time. I think he might have been just at Portsmouth.
I'm sure it was
Yeah.
like 2004. He was at Portsmouth.
I'm just looking at his
maybe.
career. He had like a spell, 3 years not playing. Oh no, never mind. Ignore me.
Okay,
Ignore
I ignore
me.
you. Tom, what are you going to go for your answer?
I've also gone stabs in the dark. I've gone with Hignett for the Blackburn player, and Nemeth, who scored the goal to make it 1-0.
Any time at all?
I didn't get as far as doing a time, but yeah, we'll go like 7th minute.
Okay. So, Tom, you are partially correct. Craig Hignett was the former Boro player playing for
I
Blackburn
can't
that
even
day.
remember him playing for them.
Well, there you go. And secondly, the goal scorer and the minute, it was Ugo Ekiog in the 87th minute. So, boy, went through that day, and maybe they will this time around on next Saturday. So, predictions, guys, what we're going to go for the game. A good opportunity for both teams to rest players after the festive break. I think Boro will make a lot of changes to the side that drew yesterday. Tom, what's going to be your score prediction against Blackburn? And obviously, are you bothered?
I am bothered.
Ooh.
Yeah, I always like to see us try and do well in the FA Cup. I actually prefer that to the League Cup as well. But I don't know if that's just because we haven't won this one and I just really want to see it at some point. I think it's still going to be a tough game, regardless of if they rotate anyone or not. I'm going to go 1-1, and then we'll have a replay at Ewood Park, which we probably won't drive all the way there for and get there bang on kickoff. But
is the replays this year? I think that might have took them out.
If there's
Yeah,
no
I think they did.
replays, then great. Is it extra time or just straight penalties?
I mean, Danny, you give me your predictions, and
I thought you were going to get me to give you the truth there. I was like,
no,
don't know.
you give me the
Okay.
predictions, and I will frantically search for an answer for that.
Okay,
So
I'm going to go. They've got a good record at the Riverside, so I'm going to go 4-0 Blackburn. I'm going to go Yakubu. I'm going to go Morgan Gamps Pedersen. And because I mixed up Portsmouth with Blackburn, I'm going to go Jermaine Defoe Brace. Up the ticks.
Okay.
No, I'm actually going to go
that's Wigan. What are you on about here? What is going on?
You are underplaying my craft. As if I didn't know that was Wigan. Hello, I've been watching football since I was knee-high. No, my actual prediction is going to be 2-1 Boro.
Oh, that's like Harry Potter and the Wizard of Oz all over again. This. So
yeah, if I meant it.
So 4-0 Blackburn, Jermaine Defoe Brace, Morgan Gamps Pedersen and Yakubu, and
up the ticks.
Up the ticks. So 2-1 for you, Dana. Tom, you're just going to say anything to happen in extra time. And I will go. I'll take a 1-0 win. I'm going to take a 1-0 win, 4th round, get a big tie, and get beat probably after that one. That'll be the FA Cup journey finished again. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. To listeners and viewers, thank you very much for watching us and listening to us in 2024 and in 2025. We had some fantastic results when we were looking at things from 40% uplift in listenership. We had 3 fantastic guests last year from the club, in Matt Crooks, Tommy Smith, and Kieran Scott. And we do thank them for coming on, and hopefully for more opportunities for us. There's definitely one for coming up for me in the next couple of weeks, and yeah, more guests, more fun stuff. But for right now, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was our Boro Matchday Chat in the pod. Up the butter.